After learning he's getting neutered, a dog has 24 hours to live it up with the boys. Yes, guys, this is a real animated movie. So is this movie the worst animated movie of this year or of all time? Let's get started on my review of Fixed. Let's go. What's going on, all my beautiful people? This is Jacey, and I just finished watching Fixed. Before I do start my review, please know that this will be a spoiler-free review, just in case you are curious and want to check out something weird and raunchy and crude. Also, please make sure to hit that like, hit the subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date on more new adult animated movies that I'm reviewing just like this. So Fixed stars Adam Devine, Idris Elba, Kathryn Hahn, and more. So when I first heard about this movie, I thought, there's no way this could be real. Like, is this a real thing that Netflix is really gonna drop? And I had read about the story first, and then I saw the trailer and I thought, oh, this is real, and it is as ridiculous as it sounds and looks. From the trailers, it just seemed like they were not gonna hold anything back, and that is for the most part what you get from this film. So for any of you guys watching this right now, and you, I'm sure, have seen either the banner on Netflix or when you kind of select it but not play the movie yet and you start to see the trailer, yes, it is what you're gonna get out of the movie. A lot of crude humor, a lot of raunchy humor, and a lot of sexual references and explicit things that you just probably are thinking, wow, I'm watching this. And for all the kids that are watching this as well, because I do know that there is a younger audience that watches this, please be warned that this is an adult animated film. Don't click on it thinking that this is going to be something that your parents approve of, because I'm sure you're going to see some things that is very rated R. But Fixed is supposed to be an outrageous adult animated comedy, and I will give it that. A little more than that, sometimes it might shock you on the things it shows and what it talks about. But this movie is about a dog named Bull, played by Adam Devine, who finds out he's about to be neutered. And as I said in the intro, with only a day left before the surgery, he goes on a wild adventure with his group of dog friends to live it up. On paper, the idea could have worked, and I get what they were going for with this movie, but the execution is a complete mess. Not only is the story just really based off of crude humor and a lot of shock value instead of building anything clever or interesting, but it also goes the route of Sausage Party. So if you've ever seen Sausage Party and you thought, wow, that was really disgusting and raunchy, that's kind of what you're gonna get here, but at least they had some cleverness with that story. But this movie completely just does so many things for shock value just to leave your mouth open wide while you're watching this. And I, trust me, was thinking, as I was even watching the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie, I thought, wow, they really went there. Wow, they're really showing dogs in the act of doing something, not just taking a number one or two, but with other dogs doing certain things. And you're like, why was this even approved? Now, I get it if that is your thing, or you want to see something different, you want to have fun, have a blast, you think some of this stuff is funny, then hey, I mean, I'm not gonna judge, and I'm not here to judge. But what should have been funny in most of these scenes ends up just being gross, repetitive, and painfully unfunny. And I found myself just staring at the screen like, wow, that really happened. And as the movie went on, I thought, all right, JC, you need to stop being like that, all right? So try to look at the comedy of this, try to open your mind a little bit more. But as I did that, I just found a lot of the imagery of what you see in here and some of these jokes just being a little too gross. And especially for my liking, because hey, look, I am a dog person, also a cat person. I love both, but I don't think I've ever thought in my head, hey, I wonder what it would be like to be in a dog's perspective on them getting neutered and that day coming closer and what they would do. I want to see some of the sexual acts. I want to see some of the wild things they would do. No, I don't want to know that. That's what this movie gives you. But there are a couple of small positives I will say in this film, and one of them is the cast. The voice cast is stacked with talented names like Adam Devine. And yes, I used to watch Workaholics. I know how childish sometimes his humor can be, but nonetheless, I've never really hated Adam perform divine in some of his roles that he's had. But we also get Idris Elba. Love him as an actor, as well as Catherine Hahn, Fred Armisen, and Bobby Moynihan. So you have some of these SNL alums, as well as some good actors. But I felt like with that, you kind of don't get a lot of the utilization of them. Unfortunately, the material they're given is so weak that even their energy can't save it. The performances are fine, but none of the characters feel memorable or engaging. It almost feels like the actors are wasted on this script. Now, another thing I will say, other than the stacked cast, although they're not utilized that well, is the animation. And it is a bigger positive here because the animation style is pretty engaging. Now, the wonderful, legendary Genndy Tartakovsky, and yes, if you're not familiar with him, he's responsible for such shows as Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, Primal, the list goes on. He's pretty much responsible for a lot of my childhood and teenage years. I mean, he's made such iconic shows in the animated community, so that was one of the small reasons why I thought, okay, let me just at least give this a try. Let me open my mind to it. But with that, you get him and his team that went for a hand-drawn, old-school look that stands out compared to the usual CGI-heavy films, especially on Netflix. The movements are expressive, and visually it feels like a throwback to classic cartoons. And I did enjoy that part of it, but again, you get a lot of gross out moments. Like, you get the expressive look of a dog's butthole, you also get a dog's balls, and you get certain parts like that in this film where you're like, wow, although the hand-drawn style of this cartoonish look looks awesome, I kind of would rather not see this vivid visual of a dog's private areas. Sadly, even strong visuals can't rescue the film when the writing is this bad. And trust me guys, it's bad. Now again, not trying to compare here, but I've seen some of the adult animated films like Sausage Party, and they've had some jokes in there where it relies on certain puns or certain punchlines that actually did transition pretty well as the film went on. Sausage Party is not a great film, and some of the other adult animated films that are similar to this, but this one just seemed like it was saying jokes just to say them. And that brings me to the comedy, which is the worst part of this movie, unfortunately. And this is where the movie, for me, completely falls apart. The jokes are juvenile, tasteless, and over-rely on sexual gags. The humor is shock for shock's sake, and after the first scene, it already feels tired. Trust me, within the first 10 to 15 minutes I was watching this, not only was I shocked about what I was seeing, but I thought I have to sit through an hour and a half to 2 hours of this. And instead of being clever or satirical, the film doubles down on crude, uncomfortable moments that drag on with no payoff. There were certain scenes that I thought, okay, that joke was pretty sick, or that was pretty shocking. I can't believe I'll watch this, but let's see where it's gonna go. And some of these jokes or story elements, I thought, why was that in there? Just to show you what dogs think about or say, or what happens with dogs? At one point, a dog is sitting there eating something, and some of the other dogs look at him and say, what are you eating? And they think it's something else when it turns out to be cat poop. And then he just keeps eating it, and the scene just drags on, and you're like, what was the point of that? And as the film moves on, you start to see a lot more scenes like that. Now, I get, again, if you're gonna go all in, which I will say about this movie, you know what you're getting, and when it goes there, it goes there. So they definitely don't pull any jabs here. But again, there's really no payoff to some of these things. And because of that, it's not just unfunny, I felt like it was a little irritating. And that is where I will say that if you are used to crude, rude, even sometimes shock value type of humor, then you might like this. But for me, I wasn't that amused by it, and I couldn't help but think, why was this approved in the first place? And the idea, I guess, is not so bad, but the execution is just not there. And another thing I did think about was, what is Hollywood's obsession with putting dogs on the screen saying nasty or explicit words and cursing? And I just don't see the amusement in it. But here are my final thoughts, you guys. Do not waste your time with this, unless, like I said, this is your style of humor and you just want to see over-the-top gags involving dogs getting it on, dogs pooping, dogs peeing, certain things like that. Hey, be my guest. But this movie tries to be bold and edgy, but ends up being nothing more than a awkward mess. The animation looks nice, but that's the only redeeming factor in an otherwise unbearable movie. With all that being said, I'm gonna give Netflix's Fixed 1.5 flames out of 5 and a really bad film rating.
My God, What is that smell?
This film definitely needed to be heated up a bit more, especially in its execution. And honestly, I just don't understand why we needed a film like this in the first place. So to answer my question in the beginning, is this the worst animated film of this year? Yeah. But is it the worst animated film of all time? Honestly, I don't know if it's the worst, but it's certainly down there, and I would not recommend watching this or you wasting your time. But alright guys, have you unfortunately watched this film yet? Were you intrigued by it, or did you just throw it on? Or was it one of those movies that came on after another animated film and you thought, what is this? And did it throw you off like it threw me off? I mean, again, I checked out the trailers of this, and the only reason why was Genndy Tartakovsky. I'm a fan of a lot of his animation and his shows, but this just was not it. Which movie though do you feel is the worst animated film of this year or of all time? Let me know in the comments below. Last thing before I do go, you guys, please make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date. My name is Jacey, and until next time, I'm out.